Hey everyone, so in this video I'm going through some more Storm footage. Now this is where Storm can be really effective, but it's in a very specific team. You need these specific components in my opinion for the team to be successful. I've done some testing with him and it's just been difficult to get him to finish off a team properly without this specific setup because of the defense down abilities as well as attack up and kind of the leveraging that you can do of various toons' weapons. So I found that by using Clementine as the leader, you actually had a higher damage output because of the attack up leadership ability by 25% to all melee toons, as well as the minus 25% defense down to all enemy toons. This combination makes for a very effective leader, and she can give a huge bonus to AP to all melee toons. Now this team will not be as effective against payback toons or bide toons, just because you have a high chance of triggering them. We're using a lot of team player weapons on this team, but we're also taking a look at using plus 10% attack for all strong toons on the team, and we're giving this to Rick because this will actually give us a 20% attack buff instead of the 15% that we would get from a team player weapon. So this gives us a higher chance of producing more damage and killing the enemy faster. Dr. Stevens also has a team player weapon. Arav and Storm both need this special bound weapon, so Michonne's Wakizashi, and I just put on a maximum amount of attack. I gave up the huge bonus to AP when attacking just because we already have Dr. Stevens in the team, so by going for plus 50% attack as well as the plus 20% AP to self, and the increased team player ability to increase the attack as well as crit chance, we're getting a huge damage output for this team. Now, as you see, even with all these attack boosts, Arav was not able to kill some of these yellow characters, so having a very defensive team with Aaron as a lead gives that plus 40% defense as well as HP, and that can make very tanky defenses. We utilize this Storm's active skill to defense down the enemy because that works in combination with Clementine's, and that's why we saw the minus 81% defense debuff, and we have the attack buff on the team because of Rick's weapon as well as various weapons for team player abilities. So we're able to stack a lot of attack onto our attack damaging toons, mainly being Arav and Storm. Clementine can also do a fair bit of damage when she rushes, but I do have a more defensive weapon on her just so that I have a team player ability that affects every other toon on the team. This team would also be difficult to run against an Angel lead because of Dr. Stevens and his 100% AP, 60% to other toons, as well as the 40% he can give to other characters if he's attacked. Add in Arav, of course, when he rushes, he gives 100% AP to himself every time he rushes, so he's always very susceptible to becoming exhausted. The other point that I mentioned in my initial Storm video was how effective he is at putting characters in the ground and keeping them there. So because of his beheading ability being a combination of decapitation and execution, it can be really effective when you go against these toons like Rosita's on defense, and if she uses her active skill, she can decrease the amount of attack that your toons have. I think it's minus 75% attack, and that of course is very effective at nullifying your damage dealers. But because Storm has execution also on his active skill, it means it doesn't matter how much attack or how much defense the enemy has. If it's under 20% HP, he will automatically kill them and decapitate them. Against tanky defense teams, this type of team will definitely struggle, as you're seeing. Like right now, I'm just struggling against S-Class Glenn, who most people have written off as a poor toon, but he's constantly keeping Arav neutralized or impaired, and that's just elongating this match. Of course, if Storm was still around, it would be a lot easier because we could execute Glenn at this point and decapitate him, but sometimes we're just not given that option. So I'm basically running this attack team against a variety of different defenses. You have to remember that I have some of the best weapons because this is on the playtest account, and I also have some of the best defensive weapons for the teams. So it's really showing you guys and showcasing how powerful this team could be, but Storm is a very placeholder toon, meaning he has to be in a specific team to be really effective. Otherwise, I feel like he's too slow to actually use. Like, if we're to compare the Trader to Storm, for example, the Trader is kind of a standalone toon who can be used under almost any different circumstance or situation because of his constant infection ability. Now, he should be paired up with someone who can do 100% heal reduction so that you can prevent any enemies from actually healing and recovering from the infection. But in Storm's case, he needs a lot of support in order to increase his attack so it's high enough to do real damage. He's a good finishing toon as well as a control toon because he can cause confuse to the enemy. I also feel like Storm's confuse can easily be countered at the moment because more people have been using Jackie leads, which means people are using confuse resists on both attack and defense teams. And of course, there's the ability to focus. So with all these different toons on defense teams, we're looking at a lot of like S-Class Frost, other taunters, confused toons. People are using focus on most teams, in my opinion, or at least should be. I'm trying to because I know the value of focus. So if the other team's team is focused, you're not getting that control that you want. Storm is definitely a character that you can rush on the first turn, but you need a ton of weapon tokens to make this happen because he does have a bound weapon. You would have to replace his weapon with a 20% AP weapon to self, have Dr. Stevens, and you need two 8% AP weapons so that Storm would have enough AP to rush and potentially kill that center toon. The other issue comes into play where when we have red toons on defense and they have cleanse weapons, they could end up cleansing themselves from the confuse ability anyway. So this team, I think, could be effective, but there's a lot of specific weapons and game mechanics that you need to understand in order to make it work. Like, this team could have some replacement toons, so Arav, you could put Princess in here instead because she would have a normalize ability on turn 2. You would still get Storm's Rush on the first turn if you want, and again, by applying it to the center toon, you're getting confused to all enemies adjacent. How effective that is really based on the changing meta, so it's difficult to tell what people are modding against and what they deem to be their greatest weakness, I guess, or what they assume others will be attacking them with. Personally, if I see an RNG leader on defense, I usually use an RNG leader back. So if I see a Jackie defensive lead, I'll use a Mercer defensive lead. But I know some people use Jackie on their attacking team as the lead because they don't have Mercer, or they just enjoy the confuse a bit more. Throughout this whole video, I've been trying to showcase a bunch of different defenses that this team can attack, and you guys can kind of gauge how effective the attack actually is. I'm doing my best to do it in the most efficient manner as possible to showcase just how powerful this team could be. But again, by the time that you get this team up and running, it could be past its prime because of the changing meta, and we know how fast it actually goes. We're expecting a hard reset in July or August because year after year, Scopely, changes from 5 stars to 6 stars to S class. So it's hard to predict sometimes toons' longevity and to see how long they will actually be useful for. I know people were expecting a counter to the Trader already, but I feel like people would be also very angry if all of a sudden they came out with a toon that recovers infection on the first turn and every turn after that, and let's say was an attack lead toon. So overall, I guess, although I think Storm is a very powerful character, he's definitely like a team player character, where he's not standalone. He needs a lot of support in order to make him work properly, and I say properly as in he's getting those kills that you need at those crucial times. Although he rushes at 100% damage without the attack up buffs and defense down buffs, he can be very difficult to control and use effectively. You can get him to rush on the first turn if he has a 20% AP weapon to self and 2 8% AP weapons and a Dr. Stevens, but that's a lot of ifs, and it's hard to make teams like that run because you'll need at least 100,000 weapon tokens just to upgrade his weapon, upgrade another Wakizashi weapon, and then weapon swap it onto him and get the perfect crafts that you need. And I just showcased another video about how long it took to get a rampage weapon, it cost over 600,000 armory tokens, and of course it comes down to RNG and how lucky you are, kind of like what bucket you're in, but it can be a long time to get exactly what you need, and at that, you could end up having nearly the perfect weapon, the perfect mods, the perfect team, and still lose to the enemy. The time it takes to not only level up a toon so that it's maxed out because of the lack of gear, the lack of trainers, the lack of food even, and then veteran rings on top of that, and weapon time, like it's going to take a long time to see this character used effectively on an attack team. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching and listening to my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you could see a bit more gameplay of Storm.